Hello, my live today is with Zana Morris. She's a nutritionist and a trainer, author of The High Fat Diet and founder of Strong Nutrients Supplements. We are going to talk about the power of protein today, so let me invite her.
Hello, hello, hello. Just getting this volume up. How are you?
Good, Zana, how are you?
Very good, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for jumping on today. And we're really excited to talk about the power of protein. So I've got some questions prepared for you. And before you jumped online, I did give you a little cheeky introduction. And for any of those ladies who don't have time to watch all of the live, it will be saved on my Instagram as well as Xana's and on the Strong Nutrients handle as well. So, Zana, without further ado, why is protein so important in our diet?
Well, it's one of these macronutrients, as they call it. So you've got protein, carbohydrates, fats. Protein is the only food group that builds us. So all of our lean body mass, whether it's our hair, it's our skin, it's our enzymes that break down our food, it's our neurotransmitters, the heart, the bones, everything is made of basically amino acids, but that's what protein breaks down into. So protein breaks down into amino acids. They're the building blocks of everything you are, all the solid tissue of you. What you can see, what you can't see. Nothing else will do that. So as we all know, as we age, kind of things begin to break down. Without the protein, you don't recover it.
Okay. And do you find as we get older, we need more protein or less protein or the same amount?
Do you know what? And I'm going to answer this as quickly as I can because there's all sorts
Don't
of research.
rush.
So there's research showing different things here at different
Okay.
stages of age. But the long and the short is we lose our lean body mass, the solid tissue. There's different views of this, but it's approximately generally agreed. It's approximately the rate of about half a pound a year from the age of 30. That's all our lean body mass. Collagen from the skin, heart muscle breaking down, everything's kind of, bone density, everything's beginning to break down. So we need to repair it and recover it. Now, we all know exercise plays a role and weight training and things like that, but protein is the only food group that's actually literally the building block that can recover it. So I do think once we hit our late 30s, we need more, not less. Because we're not looking at building muscle to become a bodybuilder or anything. We're looking at recovering and repairing it because it's just breaking down faster than it really should. If we were all staying young, basically.
So when you say it starts declining as we get older, is there sort of a chart that sort of shows when the depletion sort of takes place?
Oh, it starts from about the age of about 25. 30 is the age they really use. So we are apparently in what we call an anabolic phase up until 25, which in English means we're still growing. Things are repairing or finishing off, if you like. Now, there's probably, some people might say it's 26 or 27, or it might be 23, 24, but loosely that's when we stop completing our growth, if you like. And after that, we move into what we call a catabolic one, which things start breaking down. Now, stress accelerates it. That will have you breaking down a little bit faster. Too much exercise can accelerate it, which doesn't help. And then age naturally accelerates it as well. And if you're not getting enough strict diets, like really strict low-calorie diets, can accelerate it.
Oh,
So
okay.
even though it naturally occurs, we've means whereby we seem to help it along to kind of speed it up.
Okay.
But definitely from the age of 30, it becomes more obvious, but it accelerates with age. So a 60-year-old will probably be losing, so at 30, you may not be losing quite half a pound of muscle a year, but by the time you hit 60, you'll probably be losing more than that, unless you're
Wow.
actively working against it, if that makes sense.
Okay, got it. So when you talk about protein, so if I think about myself, I'm going to be 54 in a couple of weeks. How does protein help me in midlife and going through the menopause? So what sort of things will I feel on a day-to-day basis, or may I not feel anything day-to-day, but there's goodness going on inside?
A bit of both. Strength, muscle tone. So if you look at purely from an aesthetic point of view, you'll feel firmer. Just that's simply that put. You think of an older person, they're saggier. You think of a younger person, they're firmer naturally. You're going to start feeling firmer, more toned.
Really, with eating more protein?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's protein that's doing it. It's protein that's feeding that muscle. Yes, exercise stimulates it, but if you do exercise without the protein, there's nothing to go in there.
Okay.
So nothing will happen. So you'll feel firmer, you'll feel more toned, you'll feel stronger. Just generally day-to-day tasks, you'll have a little bit more staying power because again, it's the muscle that gets you out of the chair, it's the muscle that gets you doing whatever exercise or movement you're doing. Chances are you'll have more focus and possibly less of a brain fog, again because it's essential for the neurotransmitters to the brain. That's not the only thing that's essential for that, but it is part of the things that is required as such. So you'll probably find your concentrations better. Digestion and the likes may be better. Hormonal balance may be better because enzymes are made up of protein, as are the hormones. So there's so much, if you've been, particularly been on a low protein diet and you suddenly increase in things that can start, you can feel the difference. From the point of view of even just day to day straight away, the advantage of increasing the protein usually means a lot of carbohydrate foods reduce because you're fuller, you're eating something different, so you don't need as much of the carbohydrates, the sugars, which means then your blood sugar level ends up more steady. So you won't get the highs and the lows. You'll have a steadier energy flow.
And will you feel more satiated eating protein than,
Yes,
say, eating carbs
100%.
at my age?
100%. And the main reason being is the trouble with carbs, as we all know, they break down to the sugars. When the sugar hits the bloodstream, the body releases insulin to get the sugars out. And then the next thing that happens is ghrelin gets released, and that makes you really hungry and crave. So you stop that spiral. You'll have less of a ghrelin release, which means you won't feel as hungry, and you will feel satiated for longer. You really will. Yeah, yeah.
And may I ask you, because I'm on HRT, but when the GP diagnosed me with a sort of right level of estrogen and progesterone, etc., at no point did the GP talk to me about nutrition, protein. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, it's a really, really good question. Now, it's getting better. It's
Okay.
moderately better than it used to be. But as friends of mine who are GPs will explain, they don't get, or they get very, very, very little nutrition training. They're not trained in nutrition. And it's probably a bit unfair then to get them to really understand the depth of how nutrition affects us. But every food we eat is impacting us. It may not have the massive hit of a vitamin or a mineral that you might get if you get a tablet or a capsule, but it has it. And oh my gosh, when it comes to nutrition and menopause, like there's foods that are naturally on phytoestrogens that can have the nice estrogen-like effect. You've got the protein aspect of it, without which it's hard to make the hormones. Without the fat, it's impossible to make the hormones, and you need that cholesterol. So the long and the short is nutrition plays a massive role, massive.
Interesting, interesting. So, moving on to my next question, I have another friend who's a fabulous nutritionist, just like yourself. And she says to me, Anita, make every mouthful count. So, if I was to make every mouthful count with regard to protein, give me an idea of what my 3 meals a day should include or look like, please.
Right.
Is that
So first,
a good question?
it's a great question.
Okay.
No, it's a great question because at the end of the day, it's all very well talking about this stuff, but I've got to actually do it.
Yeah,
It's a
because
great question.
I'm a visualizer. So if you sort of talk to me about the most perfect breakfast or a couple alternatives for lunch and dinner, I've got it. I've nailed it.
So breakfasts, egg whites are a brilliant source of protein. That doesn't mean I'm against the egg yolks. The fat helps, so I would go just full eggs. So a couple of eggs on avocado, a couple of eggs on a good rye bread. There'll be some protein in the rye bread. A good quality bread will have some protein in there too. And believe it or not, without sounding too complicated here, proteins combine. They can act like a jigsaw puzzle. When you break down a piece of protein, there's lots of amino acids in it. And all these amino acids are at different amounts. So an egg will have so much of some amino acids and less of others, and your rye bread will have high amounts in some and less of others. And they combine, they match a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. So now you get even more protein. So eggs on good rye bread toasted, a good whole wheat bread, kind of whole meal kind of bread will work very well. Beans on that would work very well. Even your good old-fashioned baked beans, they'll work very well. Cheese would work very well, quite frankly. It's lovely high protein and very good quality that the body can use. Equally, smoked salmon works super well. Or yogurt. Yogurt's lovely high in protein, and you can have your berries in there. Nuts have a small amount of protein. They're more higher in good fats, quite frankly. But again, getting some nuts in yogurt with seeds will still, that you'll get a bit of combining going on there too. So yogurt, nuts and seeds, beautiful. You could have your, as I said, your eggs on your toast would work fabulous well. Your beans on toast would work fabulously well. Bit of smoked salmon, again, on a good, maybe rye type bagel or something would work well. That will get your protein.
Oh, you're making me hungry. Oh, yummy, yummy. Okay, so lovely that you've mentioned all of these delicious breakfast meals, which I eat. But what if you are vegan?
Well,
Any vegetarian, vegan
well,
options, please?
vegetarian is your eggs, your cheese. You just wouldn't do the salmon if you're vegetarian. If you're vegan, you've got your beans on toast there straight away. That would work beautifully well. So any kind of pulses would work superbly well. The vegan yogurts, I would be careful. Vegan foods, please watch, because vegan cheeses haven't got the same amount of protein in it as the traditional kind of dairy cheese, and that can often be the same for the vegan yogurts. They're working them to have the same texture and taste, but they're not working for them to have the same food composition.
Okay.
So when you're vegan, look at the ingredients, look at the nutritional breakdown. Just watch that.
Thank you for that. Someone's just put fruit. What about fruit in the morning? From what you've said, fruit, yes, but you have to incorporate it with protein, correct?
Yeah,
so with yogurt.
Fruit is great, and I'm definitely not against fruit. So here's a little bit of a little fact, which is really helpful. It's a fun fact. Sugars cause that little bit of an insulin spike. That insulin has a big benefit here. Normally, most people are trying to get their insulin stabilized, but a little bit of insulin hit helps shuttle the protein into the muscle. It's like a little train carrier of it into the muscle. So your fruit with your yogurt helps you get more get use of the protein in the yogurt. So there's a lot of benefit to adding fruit alongside. You know, the people have grapes and cheese. All right, that works great. Perfect.
Good.
So the fruit is really helpful alongside protein, because the little sugar hit actually gets you making more use of the protein.
Brilliant. And then for busy mums, whether they're working mums or house managers, busy lives, lunchtime could be just grab a sandwich, which isn't great. So give us some good ideas for mums on the run.
Mums, do you know what? This is where I would do the cheat. Grab a protein shake.
Okay.
That would work beautifully well.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's a great cheat. But if you get a lovely clean one, all you're getting is protein and whatever you throw in with the mix. Like you might put berries or something in there, and then you're avoiding the sort of bread and the run. Occasional sandwich is not going to be the end of the world, but the problem if you're doing it too much, the bread does tend to be a bit processed, and the filling in it just doesn't tend to be enough of anything to really sustain you, if you like. So you're trying to do it in reverse. Get the protein, like a piece of chicken, cheese. Again, if you're vegetarian, vegan, go for the pulses, that kind of thing. And then if you want a good quality slice of bread alongside it, that's fine. But try and do it in reverse rather than the bread holding the whole thing together.
Got it. Absolutely. So what would be your sort of top ingredients in your protein shake, Zana? Tell me what you would shove in there.
What would I shove in there? Depends what I'm trying to do. But what works super well, berries can work great. Frozen berries, particularly if the weather gets better, it'll work super well. If you want to make it more filling, so you can mix it with anything you like. I do like mixing things on whole milk. I like all the benefit you get from that. But some people are trying to avoid dairy. I completely understand that, in which case the nut milks are fine. Throw in some berries, a spoonful or so of peanut butter, one of the nut butters, and that can make it really filling. If you don't want to put berries in, put a banana in, and that little bit of a sugar hit again helps that protein absorption, and again it'll sustain you for longer. And others like making it a bit more savory. They go for a plainer shake and they might put an avocado or greens, and that can work very well. My favorite is, I have to say, is the berries.
Okay.
And occasionally a bit of peanut butter.
And could I put a cheeky squirt of honey in?
You could. If you're trying to reduce belly fat, if that's a main goal, then steer clear. If, quite frankly, you're not, it's going to do no harm at all. Again, you've got that little sugar hit, which will help with the protein absorption. So it's got benefit.
That's a really great idea. I would never have thought to have made a protein shake on the go, but I mean, it's
That's when,
basically the ingredients that I would have for breakfast, and a lot of
yeah,
these women on this live will have these ingredients knocking around, the milk, the fruit, and I like the idea of just blitzing it and then you've got something on the go rather than grabbing a
exactly.
sandwich, which is mainly carbs and not high in protein.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
shout.
yeah. And it'll really sustain, as in genuinely now, it does carry you. It really does carry you.
Okay. And then what about an evening meal? And so it's probably worth saying that I know we're talking about the benefits of protein for us lovely ladies who are online, but all of this can apply to your husband and your kids and your extended family and your partner. Just make one meal and be done with it.
Exactly.
Because
Absolutely.
my husband has a tendency of having two Weetabixes every morning and that's it. And I'm like, oh, come on now. Can you add some more protein in there? So I'm trying to educate the whole family. So the benefits aren't just for us, it's for the wider
And the
home.
big difference, and you mentioned this earlier when you're talking about the benefits of, can you notice the difference if you have the protein? You'll be fuller for longer. So if you add a bit of protein alongside that Weetabix, it'll sustain. You won't get an energy dip. You'll sustain through.
And that
It does.
and that will stop you snacking, which will help your
100%.
metabolism and regulate your blood sugar and obviously might help with any weight issues you might have.
100%.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Right, talk to us about some nice suppers, please.
Right. I tend to encourage the higher protein in the evening, so the higher quantities of protein in the evening. Again, another little sort of useful to know fact, your body seems to deal with protein differently as the day goes on. This may be worth knowing. I don't want to confuse, but I don't think I will. Protein breaks down into sugars and amino acids. So carbohydrates breaks down into sugars. You get the highs and the lows with the insulin spike. Protein breaks down into amino acids, which is the bit we really want, the building blocks, and a little bit of sugars. In English, it means you get a little bit of an insulin rise when you eat protein. Your body deals with that better in the evening. If you have too much protein for your breakfast, you'll be sleepy about an hour later and you'll get hungry again. So you don't want it too high in the morning, but the evening your body seems to respond differently. Our hormone levels shift. So that's why I go nice at a higher protein evening meal. So again, if you're not a vegetarian or a vegan, obviously this is when you can go for your fish, you can go for your meat, you can go for your chicken, best quality ideally if possible. And again, I think everybody knows this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're going meat, try and go organic and if possible grass fed. If you're going chicken, try and go free range and organic. If you're going fish, try and get it wild. Sort of the general rule of thumb. And I would be looking for at least, I'd say about 140 grams upwards in terms of weight. And you can have all kind of vegetables you like with it. You can have your carbohydrates. My goal is to keep the carbohydrates like the breads, the rice, the pasta, to more a smaller portion, like a fistful portion on a plate, as opposed to leading with that with a small amount of protein, if that makes sense. If you are vegetarian, you are obviously looking. Now, there's a lot of vegetarian and vegan substitutes now. Nothing necessarily wrong with them. Just look at the quality of the protein in them. Those meat substitutes and that, worth checking into. Pulses are great. And rice, particularly combined with those pulses, again, you get this lovely protein combination, and that can work super well. So those chili sin carnes and all those kind of things can work very well. Just combining both.
And if you're short of time, like I am, and I'm sure like a lot of other women, I tend to make a lot of food, so I've got leftovers. By having something the next day, you're not depleting the protein content.
No, you'll be absolutely fine. It's perfect. Great idea. I do it all the time.
Good,
Yeah.
because we're busy ladies, so trying to think about having protein in every meal just might end up pushing you over the edge and you don't bother at all. So,
Yes.
if we think about leftovers, ladies, why not? And you could
Yeah.
always then have what you have for supper for lunch. So there you go. You've got a fabulous.
Exactly. And if you don't mind eating dairy, for example, things like cottage cheese or yogurt are great little handy things to have, because you can add them to something, and that'll just top the protein up in it as well. They can be very useful. But totally agree with you. Just on those leftovers, a little aside, again, worth knowing if any of you haven't heard this before. But there's a thing called there's some of those starch foods which become lower glycemic by sitting and heating them up the next day. So weirdly, the potatoes or the pasta, it has less of an insulin spike when it's been cooled down, left sitting there, and then reheated than you'd think. It's actually better from an insulin point of view the next day than it was when you first had it.
Oh, that's really good to know. Really good to know. So, kind of moving on to my final question. So, in an ideal world, we could have protein morning, noon, and night, but we may be time poor. Can we do the best we can with nutrition, but also then are there some really good supplements that make up for the shortfall?
And yes, the two directions, actually, there's three directions you can look at in terms of supplements. So you've got the obvious, which is the protein powders. My favorite when it comes to the protein powders, well, my personal favorite is casein. So if you don't mind taking dairy, the casein, and it's just so slow release. It means you really do stay fuller for longer. And you notice the difference fast with firming up and things like that. And anyone can take it. It's just the protein you get in cheese or yogurt or milk, quite frankly. There's nothing else in it. That's my favorite, but it's not to say there's not lots of other good ones out there. If you're vegan, you won't go casein. And there's lots of pea protein, hemp proteins. A lot of them have mixes of the different proteins, and they're fine. The main thing I would look for if you're going for the protein powders is try not to have loads of add-ons. And if you are getting one with lots of supplements in it, they can get ones with lots of vitamins.
Yeah.
Nothing, not against that, but that one you can't be quite as free for all on.
Oh, I
So
see.
whereas with you could actually have the casein for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It would just be like eating cottage cheese 3 times a day, kind of thing. And you could give it to children. One with lots of supplements in it, you want to kind of then just watch because you don't need loads of those, or you may not be giving a child loads of those. That's really all. So I tend to try and go for as clean a protein as I can with as little as possible of other things.
So
They're brilliant.
the protein that you champion is called strong nutrients. So what is the protein that you have, and when is the best time to take it?
Well, the protein we have is the casein.
It's called the
So that's
casein.
exactly, it's casein protein, exactly.
Okay.
It's exactly the same protein you get in cottage
And they
cheese.
could easily find that through going through your
Yeah,
website or the strong
Strong
nutrients.
Nutrients
Okay, I
website.
will link it for the ladies.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So that one that's my favorite, which is why I have it in the strong. It is my favorite. And the advantage of that one is, particularly the unsweetened one, there's nothing in it but protein. A child can have that. Now, I'm not running out saying children need protein shakes. They don't. But if you're a fussy eater, you might want to do it. And you can mix chocolate powder into these things or anything and just turn them into a milkshake. So they can be quite handy. And they're high in calcium too, which is really useful. As to when I recommend it, it is just food. This is the lovely thing about clean protein powders. They are just food. If they haven't got all the extra additives in there. So pea protein is just peas. That's all it is. It's the protein from peas. There's nothing else exciting going on. So if you had it for breakfast, you'll be fine. If you had it for breakfast and lunch, you'd be fine. But you probably want a more balanced diet in and around it. So I'd usually recommend it for one meal that you're having on the go. So for me, I might do that as a breakfast or as a lunch, as you said there, when I'm just kind of on a run. Or it can be super useful around about that 4 o'clock time, when some people find they have a big gap between lunch and before they're going to get the evening meal, and they find there's a dip and they're looking to grab something. There it can be super useful. And equally, if you just feel, gosh, I'm not getting that much protein in the day, I don't like eating a lot of fish or meat in the evening, have it as a dessert in the evening. If you're the type to sit in front of the TV thinking I could do something, I'm a bit peckish, I'd like something now, then it's a great time to have it. Just
Okay,
touch
okay.
protein. But it really is just food. But it's a way to get it in without wading through a lot of the other protein foods that you may not feel like doing.
Yeah.
As you
Oh,
said, you lose the will to live after a while. It's just easy.
no, that's a really good way of looking at it. It's just another food. No, I've not thought about it like that.
Yeah.
We've had a question on the chat. I'm just scrolling back to find it. It was to do with honey. Can you please explain more about honey? If you have problem with sugar, can you have honey at all?
It is a form of sugar.
Okay.
Now,
Just be honest with them.
yeah, it is a form of sugar. Just to be clear, though, on those things. So I wouldn't be running out to get it, to take it. You will usually find, I say super cautiously, if you have sugar of any form, so be it honey or just a bar of chocolate on an empty stomach, you'll get much more of an insulin rise than if you have it with or immediately after a meal. So, for example, a spoonful of honey on an empty stomach, you're going to have a lovely sugar high in the bloodstream and an insulin hit. But if you put it in yogurt, the yogurt will slow down the breakdown and hit into the bloodstream, if you like. So you'll have less of an insulin hit. So that's a way of saying if you have the sugar with or immediately after a meal, it'll have less of a damaging impact, if you will. That's not that I'm trying to encourage you all to take it, but just to say. Yeah.
And very good answer. Now, if we had everybody has a circular plate for supper, I'm assuming it's circular, could you just, in sort of brush strokes, on that plate, what percentage should be protein, what percentage should be carbs, what percentage should be other things, i.e. your veg, etc.? Give us an idea.
I love this question. Right.
Sorry if it's one you've heard a million times
No,
before.
it's not even that. It is. But the answer, there's two versions of an answer. You can ask how long is a piece of string, because at the end of the day, what is the goal we're looking to do here? And equally, how many meals are you having in a day, kind of thing. So there's some people who eat little and often, so they'll be getting the protein throughout the day, in which case you don't need that much protein in the evening. Your fistful, it fits in the palm of my hand kind of idea, it would be perfect. Others only eat twice a day, and they mightn't have much protein at breakfast. So now they may need to double up on that protein in the evening, and that becomes the forefront of it. Vegetables. Now, I have to say what I'm about to say next carefully. My background's primarily on training people and getting them into shape. It's not just, I work in nutrition with all sorts of things now, health and otherwise, but most of it's about shape. A lot of it's about trying to get people the belly fat down and firm up. So this is the controversial bit. You don't know me here on Instagram. Vegetables don't help. Vegetables play no role in this whatsoever. As I'm always telling my clients, they're of no benefit in that regard. Now, they're benefit in other regards. They've got the magnesium, they've got the fiber, they've got other benefits. So I'm not saying don't have them. But if you fill your plate with vegetables, you'll probably be too full and you won't be able to get the protein in. So try and look at it maybe the other way around a little bit. I'm inclined to look at carbohydrates, like complex carbohydrates, like your potatoes, your pasta. I would look at that as it fits in the palm of my hand kind of portion sizes. So like 1 to 2 small potatoes, or a fistful of kind of rice when it's cooked now. So it's not the big kind of plate of it. Protein, I'd keep with about the kind of, as I said, about 150, 160 grams, up to about 200, 240. So it's like, it's good if in size of, say, salmon fillets, you're looking at probably 2 salmon fillets there.
Actually, that's probably better to talk about protein by weight, actually, as opposed to the percentage on a plate.
Yeah, it's you can kind of look at how the plate would look. So it'd be 1 to 2 salmon fillets, like 2 small ones or 1 decent sized one, or a good chicken breast. If you're looking at pulses, you're probably looking at you're looking at you do want to get your standard portion size. Now, if you're eating pulses, the advantage, as I said earlier, of combining with things like rice is there's a bit of protein in the rice too. So in this instance, we're almost looking at the rice, because it's a good brown rice or a good quality kind of wild rice, as part of that protein infrastructure, if you want, not just the carbohydrate one. But you're looking in terms of grams, and the best way to look at this is, if you want the more, dare I say, maybe scientific way, is it tends to go by body weight. And the rule of thumb is approximately you want about 1.3 grams of protein for about a kilogram of body weight, approximately. So some would argue you want 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight if you really want to build muscle up. So if you're kind of really, we're looking, gosh, oh my God, I need to firm up, build muscle fast, you're looking at 2 grams. But the 1.3 is more than enough to kind of build, recover, maintain, if you like. That works very well for most. Now, that's more than what most people think.
Okay, so my maths is appalling. Just hypothetically, say I'm 60 kilos.
Yes.
How much protein is that?
So you're looking at 80 grams of protein on that.
80 grams. Oh, I get it. Yeah.
80 grams of pure protein. And this is where it gets confusing. So this is the quick science lesson. Understandably, it gets confusing. So this is it. So your salmon fillet, 100 grams of salmon has 20 grams of pure protein. So you're looking at getting 80 grams of pure protein. So it's not the weight of the fish or meat. it's how much protein in it, which is why if you're vegetarian or vegan, and if you're looking at meat substitutes or cheese substitutes, you want to look into that nutritional breakdown and content when you're looking for it. And what you'll find is you look at, say, a dairy cheese like a cheddar, and you look at some of the vegan cheeses, the cheddar will be 25% protein. 100 grams of that gives you 25 grams of protein, whereas the vegan, you'll be lucky, and sometimes if you get 10.
Okay.
So that's what you're paying.
Really good point. I've never looked at protein content on packages of food, so I will from now on. Okay. Gosh, I've learned so much. Wow, Zana, thank you. And I thought I was quite savvy, but obviously not.
You
So,
are. From what I know of you, genuinely, I'm not just saying this because we're alive, you are. And I mean,
well, we have worked together, so thank you. Right, so we're almost at the end. So, Zana, could you please tell these lovely ladies who have joined this live, tell us how you can help them and where they can find you if they need more help and advice from you?
well, my background is nutrition and training, so I still do that online, either nutrition on its own or the nutrition with the training packages. So zanamorris.com is where you'll find me there, or at Zana Morris. It's at Zana_Morris on Instagram. And otherwise, when it comes to the supplements, and again, we'll answer all your questions if you have supplement questions as well on Strong Nutrients. So at Strong Nutrients as well, and that's where the supplements can be found as well. Thank you very much.
Oh, fantastico. Right, so the live's almost over. Zana, is there anything else we've missed on proteins that the ladies should know? Anything that, you've got a desire to tell us and I haven't asked you?
You covered things nicely, but very, very briefly. We were mentioning protein supplements. One other thing worth looking at, we don't do it in Strong, so this is not about Strong, this is just about you. You can get, if you're low in protein, you can get free form amino acids and those kind of amino acids tablets, which is just protein in the purest form you can get. That can be quite a handy little hack. Great for invalids or people who are ill who just want to get the protein in without eating too much food. It's a great way to help the recovery. If you're looking for weight loss, please don't think in terms of weight loss. Please think in terms of muscle recovery and retention, because muscle's really active and it burns the fat for you. So don't just think in terms of losing the weight. Think in terms of fat loss, but improving the muscle. So protein's a great, great way to help you get into shape. It's a great way of doing it. You're eating more, not less, but you're getting into shape. So they're really the
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Zana. I've
Thank
thoroughly
you.
enjoyed it. And thank you to all the lovely ladies who have joined, and wishing you all a fabulous bank holiday.
Exactly. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.